All right. Are we here? Are we live, Tim?
Hey, we're live, man. We're live. I'm ready to go. What we gonna do? What we gonna do?
I
Got a
thought
lot to
I was
say.
I
Got a lot
thought
to say.
I thought I was fire and you're ice, but today you're fire.
Yeah, man. It's Friday. Decisions have come out. There's only one big school left to drop, and so Stanford is dropping tonight. But it's been quite a week. You know what I'm saying?
It has. And I think it's important, first and foremost, Shereem Herndon Brown, Timothy L. Fields, the combo of understanding the choices. We have a podcast that we're kind of doing live today and allowing you guys to see us in real time. Um, Application to Admission is our podcast until you're watching the Application to Admission live show, where we are going to discuss the recent college admissions decisions, as Tim just alluded to, just came out. A lot of head scratching, a lot of happiness. There are plenty of happy families across the country, but there are a lot of families that are scratching their heads. But the bottom line is that the 2023-24 college admission cycle is over. And now we have to wait for money and college is making decisions. And we want to go live now because we have a lot on our minds, a lot to share. So college admissions 101 2024. Tim, what's the first thing that comes to your mind as you think about how this admission cycles went?
I think we're in the middle of a tornado. I think just everything going on between the Supreme Court decision, still in this test optional world. What does that look like? Obviously, FAFSA, is going to have a big impact now that decisions are released. So I just think there's a lot going on. But my initial thought from having conversations with you all this week, every night we've talked about different things, and it's our mantra. We have to get families to redefine success. That I think there's this idea that if I have a certain test score, if I go to certain school, if I am involved in a certain type of extracurricular activity, that this gives me the green light that I'm going to get into these certain type of places. And while I can only speak to my experiences and working at Emory in admission, you and I, as we've gone through talks throughout the country and talking with families and families, asking our feedback and our thoughts on kind of decisions and information. It's a lot of head scratching, and you're seeing it firsthand. So you see it more than I see it.
Firsthand.
But I just families have to know that the process has changed,
Significantly.
and what you thought happened when you went to school, even if you had a child that went through the process 2 years ago, it is different. And you have to behave differently. You have to, go about this process in a different way. And so we're going to talk about those who receive the decisions, but really we're talking to the families of the juniors, rising seniors who are about to go through it.
Brand new day, folks. Brand new day. Tim, I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment you on your very nice threads today. I like the tie. I like the black jacket. Look like you're going to a puffy party.
Come on, man. Come
gotta
on.
get it in. Got it in. All right.
Hey, what they said, that was crazy. That was
great. All right. So
crazy.
bottom line is, folks, if you get to know us at all, fire and ice. I am emotionally charged, particularly about this college admissions process. Much about our book came from the result of hearing how families felt that they were being unfairly treated in this process, primarily by their schools, their school counselors. Lots of change. We're now into the information sharing business. The bottom line is that, as Tim just mentioned, college admissions has changed forever, or at least temporarily, meaning that it is it's less predictable. And I want to be very clear with you, particularly Black families out there. If you've heard about us, the Black Families Guide to College Admissions, you're on our YouTube page, so you must have. We cannot go into this process thinking that high testing and okay grades or okay transcripts is going to get us into the Ivy Leagues. And if that's what you aspire to, as Tim said, I think we need to redefine success altogether. But for 2 consecutive years, I've seen families that have committed to their children's education, gone to prestigious independent schools. Their children, males, if you read gender roles in our book, you understand that there's historically, I can't say 2024, been a difference between how applications are read between males and females. But right now, 2 consecutive years in a row, Tim and I have experienced families being disappointed, devastated, how their high testing young Black male boys had not gotten into the Ivy League schools. And they went to great private schools, but they had transcripts. There were some B's, there were some C's, and not taking the most challenging curriculum. So all that said, there's so much that we Black families need to discuss as we talk about college admission. Do not. Do you want me to tell the full story, Tim? I think that's you're looking at me.
No, we aren't going to tell the full story, but I mean, just what were you going to say? Do not, because I think you're making a good point that, these families were working from the assumption, I went to this good school, my student, had good grades, they had high testing, they definitely got to get into, one of the Ivies.
They owe you nothing. The school owes you nothing. The school owes you nothing. The college obviously owes you nothing. This is not the time to think that this school plus this score equals in college admission. It doesn't work that way. And again, we caution you because some of you just are reevaluating, should you send your kids to private school in the first place, right? Because that was the assumption you probably made going in was, well, if he goes to this school, then he'll get into a great college. No, do it for different reasons, meaning that opportunities for students to learn in different environments, opportunities for your child to have resources they may not have at a local public school. All that to be said is Tim has been adamant about this, and I wholeheartedly support him. We need to make sure we understand that so much has changed that we look outside of our initial bubble. Don't look at U.S. News World Report as the primary tool for rankings, and understand that success can happen at a variety of places. I'm not trying to kumbaya you and tell you that going anywhere, will equal you can be the greatest person in the world. No, I'm trying to tell you the process is changing. If you don't change your mindset, you're going to be very, very, very upset.
I mean, when you were telling me some of these stories and how, families had aspirations of, oh, I have this smart, young child and they're going to possibly be into Ivy Leagues to be like, they only have one choice, 2 years. Students applied to almost over 12 schools. And at the end of the process, they got a bunch of no's and only had one choice, and none of which the families were happy with.
And not just that, but that affects the mental health of the kid, right? Getting the plethora of rejections. Parents, we're built differently, right? We're 20, 30 years older than our kids, 30, 40 years older than our kids. We need to make sure that we understand that this is not the time for us to say, oh, let's just try everything, throw snowballs on the wall to see what sticks. Doesn't matter. It's just a no. Your 17-year-old kid has to compete with social media, has to compete with their friends at school, what they hear about who's getting in and who's not. It is unfair to your child to not know how this process works. That's what I'll say. I'm not going to say it's unfair to your child to not apply to schools. I'm going to say if you're not informed parent and you're allowing your kid to follow a process that is outdated, your child may suffer. And in our book, we talk about the mental health. And that's something that we have to reinforce of. Let's survey the landscape, consider some things that we may not have considered when we were younger, and use our information to consider different schools.
All right. So I mean, we only got a couple more minutes, but those were cautionary tales.
Yes.
Families of juniors, rising seniors.
Yes.
Things that are taking place. Now you have a wonderful business, a thriving business, and you have students.
Are you my business shout out, Tim? Are you using this platform to shout me out?
Absolutely. Strategic admissions advice is doing well, and they got students with a lot of great options. But there are currently some students out there who may be waitlisted. Well, what advice do you have to those families who are waitlisted at the beginning of April? What should they be doing, or what should they not be doing?
So first of all, you go to strategicadmissionsadvice.com, where our blog post today is how to get off a waiting list. And a waiting list is exactly that. You're going to have to wait, first and foremost. It is March 29th. You are not going to hear back from a school that you're on the waiting list for right away. There's going to be an opportunity for those colleges to get their yield. They've already admitted certain students. They have to see if those students are going to say yay or nay. Once they can figure out who's coming and who's not, they may or may not have availability to fill their class. The best thing you can do is A, check off the little box on your application portal that you'd like to remain on the wait list. Number two, they can email their representative, have their school counselor email their representative, let them know that there's sincere interest. And possibly, if admitted, I will come. Colleges still want that yield, whether it's from an admitted student or from a waitlisted student. But I really, going back to the emotional, going back to the mental health, fall in love with another school. Be emotionally prepared to go somewhere else. And if you get off the waiting list, then great. You have a great problem where you have two schools that you want to go to. But today, I need you to understand this college admissions climate and to be patient, but not dependent upon that waiting list to save the day. Colleges have no idea how this is going to shake out. A lot of colleges are pushing back their enrollment deadlines because of FAFSA delays. So there's too much going on for you to be dependent upon that. I would much rather you say, you know what? I have a few admissions decisions in my hand. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to make a deposit. You must make a deposit somewhere. And then hopefully if you get off the waiting list, you can see how it shakes up.
So you were saying a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush?
I never understood that metaphor, but sure. Never. There's a few I'm like, I'm not sure I get that. But yes, a bird in the hand, two in the bush. You have one in your hand versus something out there in the wild. Yes, I get
it. Definitely. So, obviously, students may be on a wait list. I think that's some very sound advice. We definitely encourage students to, reach out to the school, to update grades, to send information. But I wholeheartedly agree with you, Shereem, that you should begin to emotionally disconnect yourself from that school and begin to think about what are the options that you have available to you, as opposed to holding on for something that may or may not happen.
100%. So let me shout this out. Let's close out on this. Again, we've given you a little insight into the most recent occurrences in college admission. Right now, the climate for the class of 2024. We hope that everyone has something that they like. Again, bravo, college parents and students, for sharing this with your child. You've weathered like Tim said, a tornado this year that none of us knew what would happen. You've come to the almost finish line. Pat yourself on the back. We are not the doom and gloom folks. We're here to give you information and hopefully uplift you so that you can have options and live a healthy, wealthy life. I will say now, though, as we think about the class of 2025, class 2026, class 2027, currently high school juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, get information, gather information. Right now, juniors, you need to be paying attention to what's happening to the seniors ahead of you, parents. You need to not rely solely on what they tell you, because they have one case study. You need to make sure that they're still considering standardized testing, still figuring out when they can visit schools, whether it's virtually or in person. They need to be talking to teachers about who's going to be writing their recommendations. They need to be meeting with their school counselors. I'm an independent consultant. I don't want you to come to me and not go to your school counselor. The school counselor holds the keys to the kingdom. I can give you advice, strategic admissions advice, but your school counselor has to be the primary person. So between meeting with your school counselor, talking to teachers to figure out who's going to write their recs, making sure that you're doing something productive over the summer, even if that's implementing some kind of plan to write your essays, brainstorming essays. There's just so much. Taking standardized tests. You can have a checklist. You can figure this out, but we need you to not go into this blindly. If you want to get our book, The Black Family's Guide to College Admission, I know I have it around here somewhere. I'll hold it up in a second. We have a timeline for success checklist in the back of our book. So if you want to use that as a reference tool, regardless of your color, we encourage it, because ultimately, junior families, you're up, right? It's your turn. So you might as well have the information. Tim, shout people out while I hold up the book.
I mean, we, kind of hopped on here because we want to, share information in bite-sized clips. Different people are at different stages in the process. So, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. These are our handles: Timothy L. Fields, Shereem HB. We'll be back to have more information, because, we're going to check back in a week or so about what's happening with the wait list. We're going to begin to get information about, what's going on with kind of the representation in these classes, given the Supreme Court decision. So there's a lot to talk about, but, we want to kind of give you firsthand information as we're seeing it and hearing it from the field. So definitely, please subscribe, follow, and definitely get the book, as it covers all this information to help families plan and navigate this process, given all the change.
And I'm going to just close out by saying, Tim, you forgot to highlight your excellent article called March Madness, which equates the college admissions process to the current college basketball environment, men's and women's college basketball. Please check out March Madness on understandthechoice.com. We also have a recent guest blogger, Keon Gregory, who wrote about what juniors should be doing. So again, we're a wealth of information. We want to make sure that we're here for you. So check out our writing, our podcast, our social media, so we can connect and inform you. All right. Signing off, Tim. You good?
I'm good. Hey,
All right.
all the
Appreciate
best,
you.
y'all.
All right.